Hello, everyone, and welcome to Project Insights IT methodology training. Today's topic is incorporate organizational process governance. So just a few things to know before we get started. All participants will be on mute. However, any questions you have are more than welcome. Please type them into the questions box, which you can find on your GoToWebinar dashboard. Also, we do not send out PDU certificates for this particular webinar. However, it may be valid for PDU credit. This is a self-reported session. And for more information, check out our article on webinars and PDUs. My name is Alexa, and I'll be your moderator for today. I'm on the marketing team here at Project Insight. And if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please feel free to reach me at alexa.ortega-mendoza@projectinsight.com. And for those of you not familiar with us, Project Insight is dedicated to making project managers' lives easier and helping teams work better together with our web-based project management software for over 15 years. PI was named Best Project Management Solution at this year's SIA Cody Awards for continuing to innovate the project management industry. We offer project management software suitable for any size team's needs, and request a free demo of our enterprise platform at projectinsight.net/trial. We also invite you to sign up for PI Team, our newest user-friendly platform, revolutionizing the project management game. And did we mention it's free? You can sign up at projectinsight.net/team. And of course, if you want more information about any of our products, feel free to contact our product experts, our PI pros, at the number or email listed below. So we'd like to give a warm welcome to our presenter today, Cameron Watson, President of QAlassist. Welcome, Cameron, and thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you, Alexa. I appreciate the introduction, and I would like to formally say to everybody on the call today, I'd like to thank Alexa for all of her time and effort in being the backbone to all of this and making sure that it's up and available for everybody. She is behind the scenes, but she is the reason why we're able to do this. So thank you, Alexa, for all of your hard work. I think I'm going to try and get my screen on here. Hopefully, Alexi, maybe you could confirm that.
Yeah, it's up.
It's up, and you can see the slide that says who's on the call.
Yes. So we're going to launch a quick poll.
That would be great. If you could do that, that would be great. I would hope everybody might take a second and get a little response here for us as far as who might be on the call, be it a project manager or be it maybe you're a tester or a developer. Perhaps you're working with your PMO or your organizational governance or quality assurance, or perhaps you're just here to get a better understanding of methodology. I think, Alexa, if you could grab control and put that back up somehow or share the poll with us. I'm unable to see.
Sure.
Are we getting any kind of response?
Yep. So 76% said they're project manager. We have about 6% software developer, software tester. 12% a member of an org, PMO, governance, or QA function, and then 6% with they just want to understand IT methodology better.
Okay, well, that's perfect. Thank you, Alexa. And thank you, everybody, for taking the time. It just helps and guides me along the way as I go through the presentation. So as far as today's session, I just wanted to go a little bit over about who we are as QAlassist. We're in Ottawa, Canada, and we work on nurturing organizational efficiency through IT methodology, knowledge, and expertise. And we promote and support the delivery of methodology products and life cycles to increase operational performance and delivery. We do have a number of different certifications, be it foundation and practitioner, and we also support practitioners and authorized affiliates in acquiring and delivering IT methodology, knowledge, and expertise. So that's about who we are. As far as the audience, be it today and in the past and going into the future, we've delivered a number of different webinars through the years. Here's just a sampling of who we're touching base with and who's being involved in attending the different sessions. Countries from all over the world, all different industries, more than 50 unique webinars that we've had and delivered. There's a list of, there's been over 10,000 registrars attend the different sessions, and here are some of the different titles that have attended. So you're not alone in joining us today. and welcome to everybody. As far as the webinar, it is one in a series of webinars that we've been delivering in partnership with Project Insight. This one is September. We had one each month till to date, and we do have common goals for the whole series of webinars. And what we're trying to do is share some IT methodology knowledge, develop an understanding and expertise in the different methodologies. And we want to provide some further insight into be it project management, software development, software testing. And as we go along, discuss best practices incorporating these methodologies into your organization or into your clients. And we want to promote an ongoing dialogue and feedback with the audience, be it questions or email or surveys. As we see in the picture, it could be a teacher or perhaps it's a tour guide. Now, what I'm trying to convey here is that if there's any questions at any time through the session or after the session, please feel free to send it in or to make reference to it. We do have a 100% response rate to all questions being posed. So I know Alexa is polling right now that if you do have a question, she will interject and I will try and address it accordingly. If it is more complicated or complex, I will probably address it and try and defer until after the session or communicate directly with the poser to respond as best I can. So that's a common goal that we have. As far as the schedule goes, I mentioned that we have different sessions once a month. We have concept sessions and tutorials. The concept sessions, we're trying to introduce some context and overview and terminology and just a general understanding of IT methodology in the 6 different sessions. They're run bi-monthly. The tutorials, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get more hands-on perspective. We're trying to bridge the concepts into practical utilization. So we actually have a sample that we go through with the tutorials. So you get a little more look and feel for how methodology or methodologies or these techniques may be applicable in that context. So as I said, there are the different sessions. Today we are doing Incorporate Organizational Process Governance, September. Here are the other ones for the remainder or the past year, January through, and we've got another one coming up in November. And I want to cite the idea that all of these different sessions are up and available on the Project Insight website. So if you don't have time today, that's fine. They're all approximately an hour in duration, and if you had some time and wanted to find out more of each or any of these, you can go into the Project Insight website and you will have access to them. So these are the concept sessions. And as far as the different sessions, we always have some common goals that we're trying to achieve for each of them. So for today, we're trying to, for the goals today, we're going to get an IT methodology context. I like to start this with all of the webinars to get everybody on the proverbial same page. Then we're going to get into a little bit of a discussion about differentiating a project from a process. A project specific versus a process which is maybe organizational wide. And we're going to talk about process characteristics, and we're talking about the benefits of the process, discuss process implementation. So those are some of the things we're striving to as end goals at the end of the session. Now, we also have an agenda, as per normal in all of our webinars. In today's agenda, again, we're going to do a quick upfront definition and context for IT methodology. We're going to talk about IT methodology in the context of a noun. We're talking about a project versus an organizational process, meaning we can apply IT methodology to a project specific, unique, or we can apply it to all of our projects, and then it becomes an organizational process. We're going to talk about characteristics of an organizational process, repeatability, predictability, and measurability, and get into a little more discussion on that. And we're going to talk about some of the benefits, be it from the repeatability, the predictability, and measurability of an organizational process. So we'll touch on those. And then we're going to talk or wrap up at the end, okay, well, if we're going to be talking about process and incorporating it into our organization or at the client site, what are some of the things that we're going to have to do to be able to implement this? And we'll go, it's going to be at a fairly high level, but I want to introduce some stuff because When we wrap things up in November, we're going to need some of this content, and we'll touch it again in November. So that's what we've got on the plate for us today. I know some of our previous sessions have been the full time limit as far as 60 minutes, and some, for that matter, have even gone over a few minutes. I think today all of the content will be comfortable and fairly relaxed to be able to get through it all. So without further ado, let us proceed. As far as IT methodology context, there's some things I'd like to discuss at the start of every session. And when we're talking about IT methodology or life cycle or framework, we hear these terms and more terms. Well, there's no standard usage in the IT industry of what is a methodology or framework or life cycle. You can go online and find all kinds of different descriptions. These terms are used interchangeably between organizations and across the IT industry. So you may have heard of something like project management at your organization, a project management methodology or a framework, or a software testing life cycle, or a software development framework or methodology. I'm not trying to get into a discussion about which of these terms is more apt or which is more applicable and we should be using. All I'm trying to say is when we're talking about methodology, we have to understand that there are different terms that are bandied about as we get into these discussions. The one thing I'd like to stress, though, which is the bottom bullet, is that every IT organization is using an IT methodology or an IT lifecycle or an IT framework. And what I'm trying to convey with that statement is all organizations today, to keep their door open, are using information technology. To be able to deliver a product and or a service, they are using information technology. They are delivering applications, or they are delivering functionality, or they are supporting functionality. Now, when we're talking about a methodology or a life cycle or framework and how they're doing this, I'm not suggesting the way they're going about it is the most effective. I'm not suggesting that it's a best practice. I'm not saying it's an industry standard. All I'm saying is for anybody on the call today who is using information technology, you are using a process or a methodology or a framework to be able to build and support your IT applications. Okay, and we're going to get back to this statement towards the end of the presentation. So we're talking about methodology in the context of a noun. All methodologies, here are some of them that are cited, rational unified process, such as IBM's, or Prince2, or PMI, or QAassist integrated methodology. Each of these define, utilize, and rely on their own predefined structure and their known naming conventions and terminology. And there's a hierarchy associated with these methodologies. This is the roadmap, okay? And within that hierarchy, at the top end, there's going to be a methodology or life cycle. So it would be a project management or a software development or software testing life cycle or methodology. Within the methodology or life cycle, there are going to be phases or stages. So you may have heard terms like planning or closeout or initiate. All of these different methodologies in the context of a noun have their own terminology they're using. Within the phase, there's going to be deliverables or artifacts or work products, i.e. you may have heard of a project charter or testing strategy. And there's a myriad of deliverables or work products that project teams work on. Each of these different life cycles have some deemed that have to be completed. Now the activity is the task being performed by the project team to be able to deliver the deliverables or complete the deliverables or artifacts or work products. So that's a sense of the noun. That is the roadmap when we're talking about IT methodology. And when we're building an application and we're talking about the noun and we're talking about the activities, a deliverable could be something like a business case, okay? And there's a distinction between a deliverable, which we can touch and feel and read and review and approve, versus an activity that we have to undergo to complete the deliverable. So an activity would be reviewing the business need with the operational management or business analysts or end users. And this would be compiled or incorporated into a business case deliverable. Similarly, a project plan. We're going to need a project plan for the project. Well, we're going to probably have to meet with the stakeholders or system owner to acquire approval on the project plan. So these are activities that align and go along or with the different deliverables. Similarly, we need a user acceptance test plan. Well, to be able to accomplish that deliverable, you're going to have to discuss the objectives and priorities with the testing team. So I'm not going to go into all of the examples of all of the different deliverables of all of the methodologies. All I'm trying to draw here is a distinction between a work product or artifact or deliverable and the activity a project team undertakes to complete it. So here, in the simplest case, I'm going to use the QAlassist integrated methodology. We can see, as I said earlier, here's the hierarchy. Here's the life cycle, project management, software development, or software testing. Within each of these different life cycles or methodologies, there are different phases, as we see across here. And within each of the phases, there are specific deliverables that are defined. Okay, now this is another way of depicting methodology, and we're going to be using the Project Insight tool. As we see at the top in the red is the specific life cycle or methodology. In this case, it is project management life cycle or methodology. And within it, there are all the deliverables associated with this project that are going to be completed by the project team. Now, I'm not going to get caught up on the actual timing or scheduling of the deliverables. I'm just trying to depict that static diagram we just saw into a tool like Project Insight as far as how it would look. The activities are not defined here, just the specific deliverables. Similarly, here's a software development lifecycle. And again, we have the deliverables listed within the tool. There are no activities. We know we're going to have to meet with the user to drop the business case. We know that we're going to have to meet with the business analyst to get into the definition of the high-level solution design. We know these things. These are activities that are going to have to take place, okay? Here's a software testing, similar. It's just a different depiction of a life cycle and how it looks. And again, we're using the Project Insight tool to be able to show that. Okay, so we've talked about the deliverables, artifacts, and work products, and there's some common attributes with them. They are tangible. It's something we can touch. It's something we can read. It's something we can feel. It's something we can review. It's something we can put under configuration management. So by having these tangible, predefined informational requirements in each deliverable, it affords us certain things. Because of this, we can identify and define what these deliverables we're going to complete on the project team. And if we can define which ones we're going to be completing, then we can put in a resource associated with the project team to complete them. We can also put a completion date on the deliverable, and we can have a costing on the deliverable, and this is going to be included in the project schedule. We can also assign the idea of creating the deliverables to specific project team members. They can also, because they're tangible and readable and reviewable, all of the deliverables are going to be accessed to all of the team members, which is going to improve a common communication and thread of the communication between the project team members. So everybody would read the same project charter, or everybody would understand the same high-level business design. So there's some commonality in the communication. Because it's tangible, we can actually review it, and we can actually go through a review process and actually authorize a deliverable or any deliverable. And it's going to alter in status as it goes through its own life cycle. The deliverable will go through its own life cycle, being authored, being reviewed, being approved, being archived, being referenced throughout the life of the project. It's going to be reflected on the project schedule, and the status is going to be taken against the completion rate of where that is. Any issues and any percentage of completion will be tracked on the project schedule. And because it is tangible, it can be reviewed, it can be approved, it can then be put under formal configuration management as the status evolves. And again, it can be accessed, because it's tangible, by be it application support teams to do support and maintenance on the specific deliverable or functionality of the application that's been delivered. So there are some real benefits to deliverable per se. So we talk about Verb. I just cite a couple here. Waterfall, you may have heard of it. It's a single iteration through the methodology or lifecycle, meaning to say we're going to travel once through the software development lifecycle and once through the software testing lifecycle. So it's a single iteration. There's going to be deliverables and artifacts. We're going to have to define them and assign them and document them when we're using waterfall. And there's a formal structure required to do all of this creation, review, and approve. That's a little bit different than Agile in that there's more than one single iteration through the methodology or life cycle. So if we're talking about accounting, we may build the functionality of accounts receivable in the first iteration. We may do accounts payable in the second iteration, and we may do payroll in the third iteration. So there's a more rapid turnover in the creation. There's limited deliverable creation, we're talking Agile, and there's less formal structure to be able to do this. So just to cite it here in the diagram, we start a project, and if we're using waterfall, we'll go project management, we'll initiate project, then we're going to plan the project, and we're going to be planning all the deliverables we're going to be doing. We're going to be planning how we're going to be doing the software development and software testing life cycles and the phases and the deliverables. Then we are going to execute, and we are going to execute the different phases of the software development and software testing life cycle. And when we're doing waterfall, we're going to do one iteration. When we're done the iteration, we can then close the project. Now, if we are doing Agile techniques, we would do the one iteration for accounts payable, then we would do the next iteration for accounts receivable, and then we do the last iteration for payroll. Okay, hopefully that gets the, okay, so that being the case, all of these things are applicable to a project. And now I want to talk about the difference between a project and a process. In the project context, excuse me, I'm just going to take a quick drink of water here. I'm speaking too fast. I'm saying too many words, perhaps. Thanks for your patience. When we talk about the project context and the methodology in the context of a noun, as I said, we have project management, we have software development, we have software testing lifecycle or methodology. Okay, from a project management perspective, here's our lifecycle. And in this context, the objectives are to establish the project. Let me just back up and show that again. I've just taken a broader view of the project management lifecycle or methodology and the phases, and just so you can see it a little better. And when we're talking about a project, from a project perspective, what we're trying to do with this lifecycle is we're trying to establish the project. We're going to plan the project, be it the resources, the deliverables, the activities, the quality, and the risks associated with it. We're going to execute and control the project and the project plans and schedules. And we're going to deliver the project to the users on time and within budget. So these are the objectives of the project management lifecycle for a project. And there are going to be audiences that are going to be associated and tied in and dynamic with this lifecycle. The stakeholders, the project managers, business analysts, systems analysts, programmers, and testers. And of course, the end users. So this is what we're going to get from a project management lifecycle, the context of a project. Let's look at software development. When we're doing the software development lifecycle, and again, I've just blown up so you can see it a little better in the deliverables and the different phases. We're talking about a software development lifecycle or methodology. There are going to be things that we're going to try and achieve, the objectives of using this software development lifecycle. We're going to enhance the project team communications. We already talked about deliverables. We already talked them being created through activities of the project team. We also talked about them going through some form of formal review and authorization. And we also talked about them being available because they're under configuration management to every team member on the team. So anybody can look at the project charter or the testing strategy. So it's going to improve communications. It's going to define the formal user requirements, meaning that the users are going to be participating in the deliverables, in the creation of the deliverables. So there's going to be an input from the user side, and it's not going to be strictly the IT resources defining and conjuring requirements as we go along. The software development lifecycle is also going to allow us to design a solution that satisfies these user requirements, the formal user requirements. It's then all going, because we have them defined formally, it's going to enable us to build the desired functionality. And again, the audience associated with the software development lifecycle would be the stakeholders, project managers, the analysts and architects, the testers, and of course, most importantly, as usual, the end users. They're going to get what it is they wanted. They are going to get what they have approved. Okay. That gets us then to the software testing lifecycle. And again, at the project level. Okay. Sorry, here's just blown up again. We see the phases and we see the deliverables. We're talking about software testing for the sake of a project. What is that going to get us? Again, it's going to improve the project communication. Again, we're going to be using deliverables. It's going to allow us to tie the software testing lifecycle to the software development lifecycle. There's going to be an emphasis on testing activities and deliverables from the outset of the project. Instead of, at the 11th hour, the development team throwing all of the code over to the testing team and saying, there you go, test it in 3 days. The idea with the software testing lifecycle is, and one of the objectives is to have testing activities to start when the project is starting, to have some forethought there. You're also going to be able to correlate the expected and authorized requirements with the application being developed. So as we've got requirements being formally defined and authorized by the user in the software development lifecycle, we are then able to say, oh, well, we know already what the requirement is. We are able to then predefine some criteria when we're doing our testing. So when we do our actual testing, all we do is test the actual results we're getting versus the predefined requirements or the predefined criteria from the requirements we've already established from the user's approval. We're also going to enable the users to verify and approve the final solution with the software testing lifecycle. These are some of the things we're going to gain. And again, the audience, there's going to be business stakeholders who are ultimately going to be responsible for incorporating this or implementing this. Project managers are going to deliver it. The business analysts and architects are going to probably heavily involved with the functionality and the testing. The programmers and testers, and of course the end users. So these are some of the things that we're going to get or derive, or some of the objectives of these different life cycles or methodologies: project management, software development, software testing. Okay, so that's the project context. Well, and that's good. Well, there may be another way to look at this. In a process context, we have to look at things differently. We don't look at it from a project context, from a process context, meaning all of our projects are going to be applying project management. All of our projects are going to be applying software development lifecycle. All of our projects are going to be applying software testing lifecycle. So it's going to become a process now to be able to apply these different life cycles or methodologies. So let's just see what we're going to get here from a process context. All organizations, we know that there are the different life cycles: project management, software development, and software testing. So all of the projects that we're going to be doing within the organization are going to be using and utilizing these different methodologies or life cycles. There are going to be some benefits if all of the projects are using them. The benefits are going to be organizational planning, the execution of all projects, and how we deliver these projects. There's going to be benefits in the requirements definition. We're going to be using the software development lifecycle the same way every time. We're going to enable users to approve these requirements by using the software development lifecycle. And we are going to, using the software testing lifecycle, we're going to be able to successfully test the authorized functionality. So we're going to get, not as we went through the benefits for each project, we are going to be able to step this up and get them across the board for all the different projects. Okay. Now, let's look at, from an organizational process perspective, what we're going to gain as far as, or what's involved from the characteristics of these processes. Again, it's going to be applicable to project management, software development, and software testing. So what are the characteristics of this organizational process? It's going to be repeatable. We have repeatability. We can use it over and over and over again. We use the project management lifecycle the same way over and over and over again. Software development lifecycle over and over and over again the same way. Now, the content in the deliverables of the project management is going to be different because it's a different project. The content inside the software development deliverable is going to be different, but we're going to be using the deliverables that are the same. Similarly with testing. So we're going to get repeatability. We're going to have a feel for how we, as an organization, do a project. With repeatability, we get predictability. We know what the outcome should be. And this is something that's earned as we go through and we use it more. And if something is predictable, that means it can be measured. If it can be measured, then it can be improved upon. So these are some of the characteristics when we're talking about the process. Okay, so let's look at repeatability for a second. The results are going to be, for all of our projects, that the specifics, tasks, and work products are going to be predefined. When we start a project, we know what deliverables we're going to be doing. We know that because we're using the process, that we're going to have more likelihood in delivering the project on time within budget. We got this from the repeatability. And we also know that the quality is inherent in the process, meaning we're using the life cycles or methodologies, and the process, the outcome of the process is going to ensure that quality is incorporated in what we're delivering. So that's what repeatability gets us. Okay. Let's talk about predictability. We know, we're using these on all of the different projects, that we're going to have some predefinition on the specific roles we're going to need organizationally to complete these different life cycles and the deliverables and activities within them. We know that there's different roles and responsibilities, but we know that they're going to be predefined. We know what we're going to need to do this. We know that the product and service is the delivery of it is going to be more efficient because it's predictable. And because of that predictability, we're going to allow for more effective corporate planning, be it for budgeting or for staff forecasting, and it becomes more reliable because of the reliability of the process that we're using. Okay, let's look at measurability then. And again, for project management, software development, software testing, applying it against all our projects. So the results when we measure it is if we have something that's repeatable and it's predictable, then we can measure it. As I said earlier, it's measurable. Well, if something is measurable, it's going to act as the basis of ongoing improvement across the organization. It's a cultural thing. We can measure how we're doing things and we can improve things. And because you can measure it, the operational performance and the quality of the product and the process is going to increase. Okay? So that then gets us to some of the benefits of organizational process. We touched on some of them earlier here. Corporate planning. We're applying these different life cycles or methodologies to our projects. So from a corporate planning perspective, you're going to be able to establish a benchmark of operational capacity. You know what projects you're doing. You know what functionality you're delivering. You know who's going to be involved from a role perspective. You know as far as what specific deliverables you as the process are going to be used. So it's going to enable an organization to have a better handle on the resource capability or to be able to deliver that resource. It's also then, because of that, it's going to allow for more involved corporate planning as far as budgeting and staff, going more strategically and intermediately rather than on the day-to-day. Okay. Staff flexibility by having an organizational process, be it for project management, software development, software testing. The benefits in staff flexibility is the skills that are going to be developed using methodology or life cycles, they become common. So if I, citing some kind of an analogy here, if I was to become an apprentice carpenter and I learned how to use a hammer, the skill is using the hammer. So if I was building a deck at one client, that's okay. I could use the hammer to build the deck. Well, if I went to another client and they needed a fence, well, I would already know how to use the hammer. So I could use the hammer to build the fence. Similarly, when we're talking of methodology and the process perspective, that if I understand the methodology and the applicability of, be it the software project, software development, software testing life cycle, these skills that I'm learning as far as the deliverables and their dynamics and how they fit together, I can take this from project to project, from an accounting project to a payroll project to a build a new car project. These methodology or life cycle skills are transportable. As said, it's variable. It's variability between the environments. So I can go from a banking application to a sewage disposal application, or whatever. We have different environments, and we can, because we have the skills, we are able to do that. And it allows for more cross-functional business functions and applications. So the resources can be working on or have more flexibility to work on different, and rather than getting stuck in a silo and always working on the same. So there are some staff flexibility benefits here. And of course, because you have exposure to the different methodologies and life cycles and are familiar with how they apply and how they help deliver, that's going to expose you to different functionality within the organization and career evolution. Okay, consistent delivery and quality. Again, using these as a process, these life cycles, there's going to be benefits. The repeatable process delivers efficiency. It's repeatable. We know how to swing the hammer. We get better at using the hammer. Same as a project management life cycle or a software development life cycle or software testing life cycle. The more we use these tools, the more repeatable we become and the more efficient we become as an organization. Okay, the next thing is that it's verifiable. If we know it's across the board, we know that if we're going to be using a process, that there are specific deliverables and activities the project teams are going to be using. That then allows us to do some form of review or audit on how the project teams are actually using or utilizing the process. And this ensures, the process ensures the qualities incorporated in the process and the product. Okay, so as far as accountability, there are going to be predefined operational roles. We know a project manager. We know what the roles are going to be. We have a deliverable that defines what the role is. So we're going to know what an architect is and what their role is. We're going to know what a configuration manager is, and we're going to have their role defined. So we're going to have some predefinition of the roles. So there's going to be accountability in that role. And again, because we have that predefinition and how they're working on the project, there's going to be a predefined benchmark for evaluation. So if we know what a coder should be building or a developer or a tester, then as far as how the projects go, it acts as one of the cornerstones for evaluation. And again, we have the ability to do a formal review and our audit on how our project team is actually applying the process. We've got it defined. We know what the life cycles are. We know what the deliverables are. We know what the roles are. Well, then it's easy to come in and say, okay, can I see your project charter, and did it go to the steering committee and the system owner for review and approval? So there are accountability things associated with process and how we do it. And there's also a feedback mechanism for resource evaluation. Okay. So for continuous improvement, as I said, it can be measured, and there's metrics associated with it. The metrics can be evaluated and utilized to revise or enhance the process. So as we're using the project management lifecycle, we would know how many times we have to do, for instance, replanning, or how many times we fail through unit testing. So there are different metrics that can be incorporated in the process, and by having it, we are able to then alter the process to get better with it. And it's going to eventually lead to corporate maturity. The more we get our hands on it, the more experience we get with it, it's going to make us more efficient, and this is eventually going to have a cultural effect on the organization. Okay, that then gets us to, we've talked about process. Let's talk about now about implementation considerations. We're in very good time today. We're going to probably even beat the hour today. Okay, let's talk about implementation considerations. So we talk about process. Now, different organizations are going to have different objectives. Why would they maybe consider process? Why are they implementing process? Why don't they implement process? So let's take a quick peek at it. One perspective would be from a governance perspective. Organizations have developed and are utilizing their corporate processes, and these organizations want to ensure that the processes they developed and are being applied effectively. They probably have specialized staff that are dedicated to these initiatives, PMO or a QA function, and the process scope can vary. So this is one of the objectives that an organization may be striving to achieve. One might be quality assurance. Organizations have a belief that the quality of their products and services rely and are dependent on how effectively the organizational processes are being followed. So some organizations think that we've got a process. If we follow it, we're going to produce good things. And again, there's going to be a specialized staff that are going to be dedicated for doing formal reviews and audits on how that process is being applied. And another objective would be the continuous improvement. Some organizations recognize that the operational performance and the corporate culture can be continually improved upon when the processes incorporate a metric component. So the metric component is built into the process. And these metrics are used to measure performance, i.e. the schedule, the cost of the quality, of how the products and the service are being developed and delivered. And there's going to be dedicated resources are used to acquire and disseminate this metric information to operational management. So these are some of the high-level corporate objectives as far as what process is and how it may be of benefit to these organizations. Okay, so one thing when we're talking about process is saying, okay, well, where is the organization or how is the organization? Because I can tell you after 25 years of experience that every organization I walked into was at a different level of maturity. Okay? And I'm going to throw out some definitions here, and maybe you can take a second and try and see where your organization may fit within these descriptions. So as I said earlier, every organization is using a process. I said that I think on the second or third slide today. And they're using this process or methodology or IT lifecycle or framework to deliver their products and or services. Every organization is doing that. And there's different definition of what these organizations are. So at the high end of these definitions, we're going to use a term called optimized. Okay? And within this definition, within these organizations, the IT methodology or process is recognized and aligned with business objectives and routinely delivers to the operational needs and expectations. The metrics are there for continuous improvement of the process. So an organization that is deemed to be optimized has its process aligned with its business objectives, and it routinely delivers to these operational needs. And there's metrics there to improve the process on a continuous basis. So that's optimized. Okay, let's step down a little bit. We'll use the term maximized. In these organizations, the IT methodology is recognized and aligned with the business objectives, and it regularly delivers to the operational needs and expectations. However, there are no metrics for continuous improvement. So maximized is similar to optimized. The distinction is that there is no idea of or no thought to incorporate metrics in the process that are being used or the methodology being used to be able to improve how they are actually used. Okay, so from there, we're going to say utilized, in that the IT methodology is recognized, or the process is recognized, yet it's inconsistently applied, resulting in deviations, be it to the schedule or the cost or the quality of the products being delivered. So there may not be some form of quality assurance or some form of review or audit being done on how the process is being applied. And because the process is being applied invariably, then the cost or the schedule or the quality might deviate accordingly. And at the bottom of the rung would be chaotic. And with these organizations, they don't understand that a methodology or a process, they don't even understand that they exist. They're not recognized. Their processes are not applied. This is a foreign term. So this would be 4 different descriptions or definitions for when we're talking about maturity within an organization and how they are using process. And I'm going to touch on this in the last webinar in November, and we're getting to further clarity on this. But here's some of the way we can look at organizations. And I'm sure everybody on here today may have worked in different organizations at different levels of maturity. And you'll find that the culture within these organizations differs depending on whether they're optimized, maximized, utilized, and chaotic. We're talking about an optimized organization. Everybody kind of understands their roles. Everybody understands what the objectives are. Everybody understands how they tie in with their work and how that delivers to the corporate objectives. That's different than the chaotic organization where everything had to be done yesterday. Nobody understands what the specific role is, and it's chaotic from start to finish. Okay, so we're talking about implementation of process. There's some common cornerstones of success, I call them, that you're going to be able to need to have in place to be successful when you're implementing process or methodology or any of these life cycles. You're going to need someone in an influential spot in the organization to be the ownership and or the steering committee. There's a champion required to say, no, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this right, and we're going to implement these methodologies or processes across the board. You're going to you're going to need some form of expertise or experience in the realm of process. So we've heard of corporate PMOs or quality assurance, governance. These are the folks that are in tune with process, what they are, how you train people, how you review, how you support them. So that you're going to need that form of expertise to be able to successfully implement some form of process. You're going to have to identify the scope. When we're talking about the process that we're going to be implementing, you're going to have to nail down how big a piece of the pie you're going to try and implement. Some organizations say, well, we'll just take a little phase of the project management life cycle, meaning the planning phase. Some organizations want to implement all of the life cycle simultaneously. Okay? The idea here is we have to understand what's going to bring value in the immediate and long term once it's implemented. We have to be able to define the piece of pie to have a context. We have to define project management and understand the scope to what this effort is going to be. You have to designate this effort as a project. There have to be project management practices, be it initiate, plan, execute, and control, to guide the project implementation. There's nothing worse than being on the floor trying to implement project management and someone saying, oh, can I see your project management plan? Or can I have your resource definition deliverable? Well, you have to deem it as a project and run it as a project to be able to successfully implement it. You are going to need continuous communication across the organization from the process development, be it the methodology you're going to be using, through the process training, and through the process implementation and support of the project teams. And you're also going to have to incorporate some form of implementation feedback loop, meaning how the process is being applied as it's being implemented. And the ownership or the champion is going to be made aware as far as how that works through, be it the PMO body or the governance or the QA function. These are some of the cornerstones that have to be in place to be able to successfully implement process. As I said earlier, terms. Every organization is using an IT methodology or lifecycle or IT framework. And that would be a process. Okay, so that about, I believe, wraps it up. So for today's session, and again, we're still in good time, we got a little bit of a context at the start. We talked about the noun and verb and the hierarchy and the concept of deliverable. Then we got into discussing methodology in the context of a noun and about projects and some of the benefits we get by applying these different methodologies or life cycles to the project. Then we differentiated project from organizational process. We then went into talking about the organizational process and the characteristics, be it repeatability, predictability, and measurability. Then we talked about some of the benefits that could be derived from the organizational process once implemented, be it corporate planning, staffing flexibility, consistent delivery, accountability, continuous improvement. And then we talked about some of the high-level implementation considerations that we're going to have in mind when we're implementing process or one of these life cycles into our organization or client site. So that's about it for today. And again, as I said, in November, I'm going to get into further definition in the implementation side of it. So that being the case, and in wrapping up, and we still have a few minutes, I just wanted to make everybody aware that if they had some time to jump into the QAlassist website, and you'll see some different documentation as far as the body of knowledge. You might want to take a quick peek at some of the life cycles or deliverables associated with it. And until the next session, I'm not sure if there are any questions today, and if there is, I'm sure Alexa will bring them up there towards the end. Keep posing them, and we'll respond. As I said, maybe you could explore the body of knowledge, and you'll see some sample deliverables and white papers and blog articles. You might want to find out more about becoming a foundation or practitioner of QAassist, and perhaps you could tell your friends and coworkers about the next session and perhaps invite them, and they'd be more than welcome to join us. So, as I said earlier, we have the different sessions, the concepts, and the tutorials, and as I mentioned, they're all up and available on the Project Insight website. Today's session was the concept session. Oh, I got that wrong. Sorry. The last tutorial was in August, the project control and verification, and the next one is going to be in October, and it's going to be project close and delivery. So we're going to, in the tutorial, as we've gone through the sample project, we're going to show how we close the project and deliver it to the client site. As far as the concept sessions, today was the organizational process governance. And November, we're going to be talking about implementing this in more detail. We touched on it briefly today, but we're going to get into more specificity in November. So that gets us back to our good friend Alexa. And Alexa, I'm not sure if there are any questions, but I'd like to pass the rest of it back to you and let you take the lead, and I'll sit and I'll listen to anything that needs to be required. So thank everybody for joining, and maybe you'll be back in next month, and we'll go from there. And thank you again, Alexa, for all your hard work for everything.
Great. Thank you, Cameron. Again, if you have any questions for me, please feel free to reach me at alexa.ortega-mendoza@projectinsight.com. And if you would like to schedule your customized demo, you can do so by giving us a call, or you can also fill out a request demo form at projectinsight.net. And if you'd like more information on QAI please reach out to Cameron Watson via phone, email, or visit his website at www.QAIassist.com. And for those of you on social media, I'd like to invite you to follow, like, and subscribe to our social media channels. Our handle on Twitter is @Project Insight, and you can also find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for the latest in PI and project management news. In our Project Insight community, you'll find many recorded videos and webinars for you to watch and learn from. You can sign up for your next project management or check out the rest of our webinars by visiting our webinar calendar to register for as many as you'd like. And that's all we have for you today. We'd like to thank Cameron for a great session and, of course, thank our audience for your time. We hope to have you on board for our next webinar. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day.